This is like really not so much a this full-blown presentation, but let's have a little, hopefully a little dialogue and a little understanding. I guess a little bit is I'd like to help you understand a little bit about just viewing art in general. Okay, is my goal, and specifically, what might have gone on here. Okay, with this painting. This is Rembrandt's Return of the Prodigal Son. Henry Nouwen had a rather overwhelming experience with this painting at one point in his life. Has anybody gotten to read that little section in the book? So some of you have. And actually, he wrote a book, about that experience. It was so powerful, so overwhelming that he took time to write this book. And it's not all that unusual from a, like a global point of view to have those sorts of overwhelming emotional responses to artwork. I know America, we kind of have trained that out of us, okay? But it's not terribly unusual for people to be in a museum and literally break down, or museum staff, especially in other countries, they are well aware and trained. Oh, must be what's going on. It's not necessarily a heart attack or something. It's a response to the artwork, and I believe very much that Henry Nouwen had that sort of response to this painting and wrote about it. Okay. So I encourage you at some point, come over and spend some time with the painting. My understanding, it's either going to be over there or over there, I don't know, over there, okay? And so please take time, and they're going to keep it up here for a while. Come and just spend some time with the painting. Now, this isn't the real thing, okay? And as Father said earlier, this is basically about a quarter of the size, okay? The painting's is literally 4 times, actually a little larger than 4 times this big, okay? It's a big painting, and that's an important idea. So, to view artwork, I think it's important to have a little understanding of where the artist was coming from, okay? Like, I don't know if these names mean anything to you, but to connect to a Jackson Pollock artwork, you should know a little bit about Jackson Pollock, when he was living, what was going on in Jackson Pollock's world. To know something about Mark Rothko, you should know something about Mark Rothko's world, and so the same is true of Rembrandt. So that is in fact not just so I could hide myself a little bit, but I want you to know a little bit more about Rembrandt's world. There's a great book, A World Lit Only by Fire. Manchester, I believe, is the author. And if you care to, I would encourage you to, take the time to read that book. And it helps explain and connect to the world that Rembrandt came out of. It is not our world in any way. And even though there was great beauty and great strides in technology and understanding in art, it was still a very, very primitive world in many ways. Okay? The world that Rembrandt lived in. This would have been not terribly uncommon. This is the way men, craftsmen would have dressed. This piece is a little early period, but again, if it was still a good piece, if it was still useful, okay, nobody would have thrown it away. Okay, every piece of cloth was woven by hand. There was great value in the cloth. Okay, I carried what I needed, okay, with me. Okay, if I was fortunate enough, many people carried, I might have a ceramic mug with me. Okay, I might. Typically, I would have carried my own bowl, a little porringer. Okay, just something small, typically a wooden bowl. This was not a time when it was You wouldn't visit a friend's house and they would have a set of, 8, china for you to choose from, okay? Now, there were wealthy. There were wealthy people that, that had much. I would have carried my own spoon, okay? In my pouch, typically, I would have carried, if I did have any money, coins, carry fire making, so flint and steel and char cloth, that's what I would have been carrying. I would have traveled with that. People did an awful lot of walking. Okay. I have a hood. I also have a hat on. Okay. It was kind of polite to keep a hat on all the time. Okay. I had bugs. I mean, it was kind of just a given. Okay, so I'm going to keep my hat on. That way, I keep my bugs to myself. Okay, you keep your bugs to yourself. We're okay. Okay, but this is the world they lived in. They just got. It was just like, humans had lice. Okay, that was, that's what it was. Okay, not that bathing was unheard of, but bathing was still not very popular. Okay, this is still we don't have indoor plumbing. Okay. Our world was lit by fire, okay, and we don't connect to that really well. Like, take away all these lights, okay, and the only light in this room are these candles, or candles that come down, and actually it's been not too long ago cleaned away, but it's pretty easy, like those of you that are involved in the cleaning, like even those wonderful new candles, probably really quality paraffin in those, okay? And we still get the black soot, okay? So our buildings are covered with black soot, and we don't have a lot of air movement. Is this getting, okay, so this is the world that, that Rembrandt was in, okay? Now, there was some, excitement going on, let me pull this up and hopefully I can, I can't. So let's give you a little bit. Last 5 years, there was the plague in London, okay? The Great Plague, happened within 5 years of the painting of this. England is at war with the Netherlands. War was pretty standard, okay? New Amsterdam, okay, now under English rule, renamed New York. So the New World is coming along, but it's still, like New York just became New York, okay? New York establishes religious freedom for Protestants. And for that, we're talking, the Protestant Reformation is very new, okay? This happened within Rembrandt's lifetime, okay? So, and that idea, like Protestants were very, very much, considered, black sheep, second class, okay? And so, New York establishes religious freedom for Protestants. The Palace of Versailles is recently inaugurated. So just finished enough to kind of open their doors. So the French Palace at Versailles, trying to get a little setting of what's going on. Specifically, Rembrandt lived 1606 to 1669. He was 63 years old when he passed away, and this was painted within the last 2 years of his life, one of his final paintings. He had many students. He had all kinds of family problems. He was married a couple of times, not terribly successful in relationships. He spent money way too greatly. He wasn't a real smart financial planner. And he ended, a poor man. Okay. That's Rembrandt. Okay. Now, I want to take you into the idea of the commitment to make a painting like this. Okay. So remember, 4 times this size, living in this world. Okay. We don't have running water. Okay. No indoor plumbing. How many of you know, the custom of the man being on the street? You know, when you're walking with your lady, okay? Okay? You know, the man is always to be on the street side, okay? The woman, does anybody know where that came from? Why that's the case?
When they threw the stuff out the window.
Yeah, right, okay? It's the stuff coming out, the offal coming out the windows, okay? And that way the woman could be underneath the eaves, okay? 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 And that's why the man was out here, okay? You know, okay? You know, right. Okay, you know, it's like this is the world. Okay, so the idea, and so we're going to make this painting, this really grand painting of this theme, and this was not an uncommon theme. People were brought up. You know, there's no great record that Rembrandt was a terribly religious man. Okay, but he was also, but we do know that he was a very introspective man. He painted more. He is known as one of the artists that painted more self-portraits than, you know, he and Van Gogh, I think, hold the record. And his self-portraits were incredibly honest. Like, you can watch him grow old, watch him grow from, you know, this kind of young, dashing painter figure to kind of a, you know, an old, beat-up man. You don't go to Michael's and say, order your, you know, 8-foot by 7-foot canvas. Okay? You're like, you do this yourself. You don't go to Michael's or Utrecht's or whatever, you know, Blick Art Supply and order your, you know, 1.5 gallons of gesso to prime the canvas. You mix this yourself. You know, it's rabbit skin glue, you know, whiting, you know, you're stirring it up, you're heating it, and you are applying it. Now, that's also one of the reasons why you teach, okay, so that you can have your students do much of the grunt work, okay? But that was the world that this came out of, okay? This was not, you know, just like a throwaway. It was a task to go about making this painting. You know, you didn't, again, you didn't go to, you know, the local art supply and buy your tubes of oil paint. You ground the pigments yourself, you mixed them with the oil. That was much of what was taught. It was the secrets of, oh, this is the way to make a red that will stay red. This is the way to make a green that will stay green, okay? And they held those secrets and taught those, you know, secrets, okay, in their studios. So there's this really overwhelming commitment to make these paintings. Now, if you can, put yourself in the place where now we are not here looking at a print, okay, but we are in a place where we are now in front of the real painting. Okay. It's 4 times this size. We are not in a space where there is great light. There is, you know, if anything, we have some sunlight coming in if we're seeing it during the day, or if we're seeing it at night, it is only candle and lamps around that we are able to experience this painting. And so we walk in and we see this painting. Also try to take yourself out of the information age that we are a part of, that images, bam, 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 you know? So we come in and we are slow to look. We take time. And that's one of the things that I teach my students. Slow down to look. We have this idea that we need an interpreter to see the painting. You know, oh, we have to have an art expert explain what is there. I contend, okay, that if the painter has done their job, then you don't need anybody. Okay? You just need to take time, and you need to trust yourself. And let me assure you that this painter did his job. Like, this guy knew his business. Very few painters ever had the facility with the material that Rembrandt had with this material. All right? So, let's look at the painting. Now, some of you read already? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So, did that strike you at all? With the Henry Nouwen's female friend who made the comment, looking at this painting, because Henry Nouwen bought a print. I believe the print that he bought was about this size, and he hung it. And he would regularly meet with his friends, and they would, you know, like talk, like, "Oh, what do you see? What do you see?" Okay. Who would share what that woman said that has read the Henry Nouwen article? Keith.
That was like the head of a baby.
Yeah, yeah. They were sitting around, and this woman says, and he asked them, "What do you see?" And he said, she said, that is the head of an infant. Okay. Now, I automatically, and also I know this because I make this stuff. Okay. That there is no questioning. Oh, did Rembrandt mean to do that? Of course he meant to do that. Okay. Of course he put that in. He thought about it. Like, you don't paint this fast, okay? This is a slow process. And you consider everything that you're putting in. You know about the work. So, of course, Rembrandt, and so can we say, is that correct? Of course it's correct. If you see it, it is correct. It's there. So we have the possibility. And again, I don't think the other side is it's not just a baby, it's a grown human, okay? So it's not just only one interpretation, we're open to other interpretations. Okay, so we have the possibility, okay, that Rembrandt wanted us to know that there's this place of return, this new birth that happens in this moment. Remember, this is an old man. Okay, screwed up all kinds of relationships. He lost children. Okay, there's no great. We don't know for certain how deeply he was connected to any church, any faith. Like, he had his children baptized, but it's not like he was, always there. And church records were kept. So, like, here's a guy, like, kind of maybe floating around a little bit, and from a spiritual point of view, but also very introspective. What else do you see?
I'm looking at the color scheme. It's a very dark background, but if you look at the people that have a very bright light color focusing on the Father, the Son, and whoever that tall gentleman is right there, that, I think, ties in with what we're looking at. You're looking at the joy of the person. It's light. You're happy. You see the light. But yet the background is extremely dark. And there's a couple of other people who are kind of medium and in between.
Right.
The one guy sitting down there and the one up there.
And then there's still
right, but the lady up there
right.
that you can't tell.
Really don't know.
And a very few colors. It's kind of, you've got bright red, but everything else is kind of neutral colored. It's kind of think your own thing.
Yep. Also, it's not a terribly naturally lit painting. That was a typical Rembrandt idea. Okay? But also, this is more like lighting based on the focus of, the intent. But also, I don't think this would have been a terribly unusual scenario in Rembrandt's world. Like you are lit by the light that you hold in front of you. Okay. My sister brought back a little tradition from her husband's family. They do it at Christmas time. They call it pass the candle. Okay. And they gather at some point, very quiet, very kind of slow everything down, shut off the lights, and light one candle, and then you give the candle, and while you're holding that candle, you basically get to say whatever you want to say to your family, to your friends, those that are gathered. And it's pretty amazing to be a part of, because everything else goes away in the room. Mm-hmm. The only thing that you are aware of is that one person holding that candle. And so very much, Rembrandt experienced that. So there we have this little focus of light. We have this little focus, and then just this little. It's not like there's this specific light source coming into this room that illuminates the scene. But we're used to that in Rembrandt's day. What else do you see?
When I saw that picture, the first thing that caught my eye was the feet.
Okay. So what do you think Rembrandt's talking about with the feet? Okay. One shoe off, one shoe on. The shoe that's on is really a pretty messed up shoe. Any ideas?
Well, he ties that into the hand, that the hand on the left-hand side is feminine, and the foot on the left-hand side would be more feminine. And a consoling hand, a soft hand, giving comfort, whereas the one on the right hand is apparently a man's hand, the father's. Giving strength is what the book says, that he's pressing almost, the thumb is almost pressing into his back, giving him strength. And the shoe on that side is stronger as well.
Okay. Anybody else? What are you seeing?
I see the greatest love that the Father has for the Son.
Okay. Through the hands.
Through the hands on the shoulders and
Okay.
his facial looking down at him.
Okay. Rembrandt also was very connected to the Jewish quarter of his city, and he would hire, the Jewish folks to come in and model. Okay. So he wanted some sense of authenticity in terms of facial structure. Okay. Also, this is a typical approach at this time period. What kind of dress is this man wearing? What kind of garb is this man wearing?
Looks like a prayer shawl on the father. A
Okay.
prayer shawl, and he's got the facial hair of a Jewish man.
Right? But is this clothing, okay, look closer to what I am wearing, or does it look closer to what Christ was wearing?
Maybe closer to what Christ was wearing.
Okay? It's closer to what I'm wearing. Okay? No, look at all, what's going on, the structure of the sleeve. Okay? In Christ's time, we didn't have that. Okay? We didn't have this embroidery. Okay? Very much in Christ's time, there were robes. Okay? So the idea was not, okay, Rembrandt knew that he was not trying to paint historically accurate. Okay, that was not Rembrandt's goal. Rembrandt's goal was to paint, this is contemporary. Okay? Okay, so why is Rembrandt making this scene contemporary? Like, we know it's an ancient story, but he's put, okay, this is a typical hat, okay, from, Rembrandt's, friend down the street might walk in wearing that hat. Why would Rembrandt do that?
To relate, so people could relate to the story.
Rembrandt very much wanted people to walk in and connect directly. I want to remind you of the scale of this thing. What do you think is going on there? When you walk in and you see, this figure, okay, in the foreground, not that big, but basically 4 times bigger. That's our size, okay? We are in the same room as these people. I want to go back to the feet. Come on. What else are you seeing? What are you seeing from the feet? What does that remind you? What does that make you think about? Here this person is here, one shoe off completely, one shoe, all torn up.
Many traveled miles. Those shoes are very tattered and old, and you can tell he's been on a long journey.
Yeah.
Possibly the wounds of Christ.
Okay? Remind us of the feet, the wounds, okay? But this long journey, okay? How do you get to the point that your shoe fell off? What happened there? Running. Okay? Like a quick stop. You ran out of your shoes. Okay? This was not, imagine this moment. Right now, this moment is very slow and very calm. Okay? But to get to this place, it didn't happen. It was not a ceremony. It was not, there was not pomp and circumstance playing as the sun approached. Okay? Yeah? There's a bit of a, from a song that we like to sing, this was a bit of a sloppy wet kiss moment, okay? You know, it was not all figured out and choreographed. It was a little messy, okay? It was unusual. Yes, this has been discussed, and is there any question? Like, oh, those hands are so different. Boy, maybe Rembrandt screwed up. I don't think so. Okay? So very, very specific, and yes, it's been discussed, you know, that the one hand is very masculine, the other hand is more feminine. Any thoughts on that? Why a masculine hand? Why a feminine hand?
Well, because even though the mother is not mentioned, I think the implication is that he's being forgiven by the mother as well as the father. And
All right.
that she's welcoming him as well as the father.
Okay. Anybody else?
Now, now talking about God as mother, you think anybody would when they read that, to be put off by that? Do you think anybody's going to be put off by that? Calling God mother as he does in the reading that you're going to read?
How many of you, I'm just curious, how many of you are put off by the idea that God can be referred to as mother as well as father? Anybody put off by that?
Anybody shocked by that?
Okay, all right. Okay. And I would say if going earlier in history, we would find that less disturbing. I would take a wild guess. I don't know for certain. But I would think in his time period, it would probably be a little less problematic. You know, because there are ancient, you know, understandings of creator as, you know, mother and father both. But I think making that point, you know, is a strong point. Like saying, okay, but you know, your idea, okay, no mention of the mom in the story, but here the mom is present. Okay, you know, and also like this is not like Rembrandt allows then any mothers in the room. Okay, and it was not a terribly, you know, female-oriented society, but he wasn't mindless of this. Okay, that any moms in the room can also connect, but also certainly building this quality in this man that is the, you know, forgiving father, okay, but who is also an example of our God, is, you know, both, you know, shares that motherly love with us as well as the fatherly love.
But in Genesis, when they say that we're created in God's image, both men and women, right? So the Father is God, man and woman, and the prodigal son, of course, is all of us. That's where I take from the female and male hand on that picture.
All right, we got to jump. Where are we time? John, are you keeping track of time? Give me some heads up.
28 minutes.
Well, okay, and when am I done?
Skip 11 o'clock mass.
We can skip.
Okay. So who do we think this is?
The elder son.
How many people are pretty sure that's the elder son?
Oh, God.
Okay? Okay. So, and what do you think of the elder son in this place? Okay? Okay?
He thinks he's been there all the whole time working, and in the end, we're going to spend all his money, and he's not looking at it the correct way. But
Okay.
the body language is
higher in elevation.
Yeah.
And also, he looks to me like he's well.
Okay? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah, there's no question. No, are you hearing that too? I want to make that higher in elevation. Okay? You know, he's big in the picture. But also, you know, the bitterness, the folding of the hands, but he's also wealthy.
I would think of that as anger, disgust, and frustration at both of them. Because here he is, he's on a pedestal. It's a me person. He hasn't got out of me yet. He doesn't look at anybody else. He's looking down at himself. And he realizes that he has been unfairly treated because of the younger son's fortune to meet his dad again. And it's not like he's happy for them. He's actually very upset with it because he feels like this man doesn't deserve this. He deserves to die.
Yep. Yeah, and you see, I mean, you see, and again, experiencing this painting in that scale, and I am standing here in front of this much larger painting, that figure up there is also looking down a bit, with contempt on me.
I also see the square shoulders. Like, I'm not gonna give, I'm a board, I'm straight, where the father is rounded and loving and cuddle. I can see that.
There's no openness.
What?
I didn't.
Now, take us back to the beginning, and just remind you a little bit, and I don't know if you've ever done this before, but thank you. You're doing great. Like, look at you. You're spending all this time looking at a painting. Most of us don't take this time to slow down and look at a work of art this long. I mean, studies are done in U.S. museums. Typically, it's about 6 seconds, maybe 6.5 seconds per painting. Okay, is the way we view paintings. Okay.
Norm, what's in the hand? I can't make that out.
Here,
Yes.
this is hand in hand.
Oh,
Okay, so it's just this hand, okay, around here. All right. Anything else on the elder son? Go.
So I would just say the sons were totally opposite. One's erect and high, the other is bowing down to people's father. Just in every way, the opposite. A lack of hair, a lot of hair, wealth, poverty.
Pharisees?
Okay. Certainly. Okay. Well, it definitely pulls off a bit of that pharisaical attitude.
I've noticed the older son's beard is manicured. It's very, very, it's perfect. Preened almost. And the younger son has no beard, has no hair. I mean, he's in sackcloth and possibly ashes or whatever. And this young man here probably is in the finest suit that you can get at that day.
Yep. I'm not sure if this is, it looks to be some sort of a cane. Okay. That he's, a staff of some sort. Very, there's a lot of authority in this image.
Would that be a sword by any chance?
Hard to see. Hard to see. Okay. It wouldn't have been terribly unusual for a character to. And when they painted swords, they were clearly swords. Okay, so if there's certainly meant to be some ambiguity. Okay, it's definitely a stick of some sort, but we're not real sure exactly what that is. Certainly, I'm not saying it could not be, but it's not like obviously. Yes, this guy definitely had a sword, but certainly an authority. One over here, then.
Is the seated figure Rembrandt?
This would have been closer to where Rembrandt would have been. Okay, age-wise. Okay, but yeah, people have talked about, well, is this Rembrandt putting himself in the picture? Although Rembrandt, through those pictures, like his self-portraits, has never showed that really kind of long